Hi, Alyssa, how are you doing? Nice to have you in our show. We are live.
Hi, yeah, it's nice to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we are waiting now for the people to come in. Thanks for having me and being on my show today, dear Alyssa. So I understand you are on the East Coast right now, and we will have a nice chat. Anyone who is watching us right now, so we are live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, which is my main channel, on Facebook, and also on Twitch. Please leave a comment below where you're tuning in from, maybe from even the East Coast. Let us know, because we would like to know what spread we're having today. So, Alyssa, we will be talking about your lessons learned and your mission to Mars. What I would like to ask you first is, except for the mission to Mars, which we will extensively talk about, you are such a versatile person. Just introduce yourself, please, for the people who don't know what other tasks you are pursuing right now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, pretty much I am building a resume to eventually apply to the astronaut selection process. But kind of beyond that, I mean, I am totally just a sophomore in college. I'm studying astrobiology with hopes of fully becoming an astrobiologist. At the same time, I've been able to do many other things like gain my pilot's license, so I'm a pilot, my advanced scuba certification, and then loads of different other just trainings along the way to kind of build up my experience.
So you are an adult now, and you're pursuing a private pilot license right now.
Yeah, so I do have my pilot's license. I
You
got
got it
it,
already, yeah.
yeah, over a year ago, but I do want to continue working on it. So there's kind of next steps that you can get. So the next step would be like my instrument rating, a little bit more. So I'm still pretty involved in it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So very versatile stuff there. So let's come directly straight to the point. I have introduced you, Alyssa, already to our followers with different posts, and really those posts, they were liked by our following. The last one I've shared was just yesterday when I was watching the stars. We have a cloud-free but very freezing environment right now, and every time when I watch these stars over there, I'm thinking of how on earth does that happen, what we have here in the space. It's something that fascinates me since I'm also a young boy. Now you have decided, and anyone who is interested in the TEDx talk, which I totally recommend, have a look on YouTube. Alyssa is explaining why and how she basically formed that dream. But let me ask you now, you are 19 years old. So your first panel, I understand, was the age of 12, if I'm not mistaken. Now you are 19, 7 years later. Why would you still want to become the first human being on Mars, Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I was younger, I first got interested in space and the idea of going to Mars just because the curiosity of it. No one has been to Mars, so why not go to Mars? But definitely as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot more about the importance of going to Mars and the importance of space travel. So I'm really just kind of like at a point where I want to contribute to space in any way that I can through like what I'm good at, which kind of the astrobiology realm. So really, yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at in terms of wanting to contribute to the space industry, whether that is from a mission to Mars or from astrobiology here on Earth. Either way, it would be really amazing just to contribute. But yeah, also everything that I've done so far, any sort of trainings, any sort of experiences that I've done has definitely just inspired me and made me want to do it even more.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, in your TEDx talk, you're talking about suborbital space. So, I'm not a space specialist or expert. Can you explain what is suborbital space? You got a license for suborbital space.
Yeah, so I am certified to do a suborbital spaceflight mission. It would be more of like a research mission. So basically, suborbital spaces, you do cross into space. So basically, space, we have a certain height in our atmosphere, and it's just a line, and that's what we separate Earth and space. Just kind of a line we chose. But at the same time, what a suborbital mission would do was you would go past that line, you would go into space, but it's not like you would stay in space. So usually
Okay.
some sort of suborbital mission would be like several hours. You kind of go up, come back. So you'll kind of go up. You'll get to that point where you're like towards the bottom end of like orbiting around the Earth, but then you just kind of come on back. So like I said, it's usually only like a few hours long.
Okay, so we will talk about the mission right now. Let me ask you now, 19 years old, it's still a few years to go because the rockets are in development and they have to be tested, of course. I'm assuming your trainings are going at full speed right now. And what are you personally doing right now to come closer to your dream? Because what I find is you are really an inspiration to many young children, young pupils, students. But dreams can be dreams, but you have to sustain them and come closer to them. What is your how do you keep yourself motivated to come closer to your dream?
Yeah, I think that there's several things that's kind of helped me, stay motivated. I mean, first of all, it's kind of space is just kind of where I excel. It's what I'm passionate about. So whenever I have the opportunity to do something towards space, I'm excited to do it. I'm really willing to do it. But at the same time, kind of growing up and even, still today, I definitely have kept like a balanced life. I was obviously working on stuff like towards space, but when I was younger, I played competitive soccer, I did piano, I did ballet, I hung out with my friends, I was doing all sorts of other stuff. So by having all of that other stuff, when I was able to do something about space, I was excited to do it, and I wanted to do it because it was special. It was finally being able to do something that I was really interested in. So I was really excited to do that, and I think that's kind of still the way today. It kind of takes up a little bit more of my life now than it used to, but yeah, no, it's definitely a whole lot of fun. And I mean, of course, like right now, a lot of stuff is just kind of online at the moment. So just kind of trying to juggle everything virtually has also been a new challenge.
Yeah, we will come also back to your three lessons learned from your preparation so far. The last one is actually the one that is definitely true. Never give up. We will come to that. So I'm seeing the people are pouring in right now. Thank you for watching. I'm together live with Alyssa Carson. She will be the first person on Mars. And Lisa, I would like to move the discussion before we come to the engagement part with our viewers. We would like to discuss with you, did you feel so far any glass ceiling as a girl on your preparational journey? And I'll give you a reason why I'm asking this. We haven't managed here in Germany to send a woman to space.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, of course, when I first got interested, I obviously didn't realize that space and science was more of a male-dominated field. I've definitely kind of seen that as like I've kind of gone and gotten older. I mean, definitely here at where I go to school, university, I mean, it's about 70-30. So for 70% male, 30% female, it's a very space and science school. So that's kind of why it's pretty male dominated. So, I mean, I've definitely been able to see that. But however, at the same time, I think also the few females who are in the industry, it's really awesome because we all bond so well, because we all kind of just have similar experiences. And so you just build such tight bonds within the other females in the community, and they're really amazing to kind of lean on and be inspired by. And yeah, we all just really support each other. And so I think it has been really amazing just to kind of have that support, within just kind of the space industry in general, but also like within Project Possum, where I do my trainings. There's such an amazing community of women there. And then within the space community, there's amazing women there. But definitely, we are making strides. Next plans are really getting, female to the moon, more female astronauts. But definitely it takes tens of thousands of people to send one astronaut into space. And so really the next step is getting more women across all of those jobs, not just the astronauts that are kind of like seen on TV or anything like that. It's, all those different departments that play such an important role in all the stuff that we do in the space industry.
But you are probably the youngest of all female astronauts right now. Is that?
Yeah, so I mean, through like Project Possum, all the different training that I'm doing, yeah, I'm definitely pretty young compared to the others. When I joined Project Possum when I was 15, everyone else was past college or kind of towards the tail end of college. So age has also been somewhat of a limiting factor, I guess, just trying to prove myself because I was younger, making sure I would be able to keep up with everyone else.
So would we then form a call to action to the younger generation, the younger girls who want to pursue a dream as an astronaut to apply for it?
Well, I definitely think, something that is really interesting is I do think that kids don't realize that they have so many opportunities, especially when they're young. When we are kids, we're not really like pushed to figure out what we want to do until, we're picking a college major, kind of before that, you're really kind of open to just go about school and do what you have to take and that sort of thing. But definitely kids have so many opportunities. I definitely initially didn't think it would be possible to do all the different training experiences that I've done at this point, but definitely, now any sort of 18-year-old is able to do them as well. But even beyond that, I mean, little experiences like, let's say you're interested in doing space robotics, participating in robotics competitions when you're younger, maybe mentioning to someone that you're interested in space robotics while you're there. All of those little opportunities definitely build up your confidence, and you can kind of learn, do I really like this career? Is this really something I do want to pursue? So that's definitely a huge benefit of it.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to go to space, maybe you want to be a pilot. I understand that female pilots are still in the minority, with only 12 or 15% with the German airlines. So yeah, ladies, girls, pursue your dreams. Yeah, there is nothing like a male domination here. So let me ask you, when we're talking about the glass ceiling, which apparently doesn't exist here, which is great, but tell me why or how can the space technology benefit from sending women out to space?
Yeah, that's really that's so funny to talk about, because when we originally started sending astronauts to space, we did a whole lot of tests just to make sure that the human body would be capable about doing all the different things within, going to space. And so those tests originally, when we had the Mercury program, so very first sending astronauts, they were tested on male and females, of course, but the females actually outperformed all of the males in those initial tests. But because
really?
yeah. But because of society at the time, just like where we were at, if let's say something went wrong on the mission, it just would have like ended the space program if a female had passed away on one of those missions. So they didn't want to risk it. So they ended up sending a man. And of course, everything went well with the missions. They were very successful. But yeah, it's very funny that females definitely did outperform. Excuse me, outperform.
Pleasure.
Beginning. So yeah, definitely there are a lot of benefits of actually sending women to space, because even from the beginning we have been outperforming.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. A high score for female astronauts. That's wonderful. Okay, before we come to the engagement part, my last question to you would be, how can anyone on LinkedIn support your vision or your mission, Alyssa?
Yeah, definitely within the space industry, I fully believe that everything that we do in space has to come from public support. If, the public wants to see us go to Mars, we are going to eventually go to Mars. And so I definitely think the biggest thing is really just being supportive of the space industry, realizing all the benefits that comes from it. The space is definitely something that we feel pretty like disattached from, just because we aren't normally talking about, we don't normally think about it, but it does have a huge impact on everything that is really going on here on Earth. So definitely just kind of continue to support the space industry. It helps a lot in the long run.
You are really a great inspiration throughout the world. Now, I've seen yesterday on our German news channel that the United Arab Emirates have also sent vehicles to Mars, and they're already sending signals. Is the Mars mission becoming a little crowded, if I may ask that? I mean, we got now the United States, and within the United States, you got several players. Now the United Arab Emirates are in the game.
Yeah, that's really funny to mention. So I have an internship with Jacobs, and I'm on the international space relations team. So I'm always hearing about what all the countries are doing within space. So yeah, there's a lot of countries that have a lot of interest with space right now. And honestly, it's been really amazing to see the amount of progress that's being made around the world in terms of other countries building their own space programs. They have their own plans, their own ideas that are all being really successful. So it's definitely really exciting. Like you said, I guess semi-crowded in terms of NASA wanting to go to Mars, SpaceX wanting to go to Mars, and then also a lot of countries now looking at going to the moon, going to Mars, sending stuff, rovers, things like that. But definitely, I think it all is good. I do think that it all is going to benefit, we're all going to kind of learn more about Mars, learn more about what we can do, also possibly push us more to actually get humans to Mars, which will be pretty amazing. So yeah, I do think that's all for the better. And then also at the same time, I think that we are definitely seeing a lot more collaboration within the private industry of space and government space. And then also internationally, there's a lot more collaboration.
Yeah, that's the point, the collaboration parts, and you can share actually the work. I mean, there's so much stuff to research. I mean, even if it would be 1,000 companies doing that, there's a lot of work for everyone to research. Okay, wonderful. Then, Alyssa, I would like to check our engagement. I'm seeing a lot of comments and questions are coming in right now. So let us greet our viewers and anyone who has now just joined us. This is a LinkedIn Live, and I have the honor to have Alyssa Carson with me. Alyssa, she will be the first woman on Mars in the 2030s. I will talk with her now a bit more into the detail about the journey and her lessons learned. So let me greet who is there. It's not uncourteous if I look at the comments. Okay, I'm listening to you through my ear. So we got Mustafa Alex from Egypt, Alexandra maybe, Roswitha from the Switzerland. Hi Roswitha. Kevsia Kendia, you are an inspiration, she says. Alyssa. Then we got a LinkedIn user, which I cannot see, from Greece. Wonderful. So we are in Greece. From Switzerland again, Yannick is there. So he says also you are an inspiration. Ludwig Reinhardt is a great one again. Once again, he says, okay. So these are some people, Alyssa, from my industry. We are working on lightweight technologies. And are you also talking and enjoying any courses on materials when you're going to space?
I mean, definitely materials is really important. Basically, the biggest thing is we can only bring so much stuff with us on a rocket, just because we need that rocket to be light enough to be able to get pushed off of Earth. So the space industry is always looking for lightweight materials. Any way we can make the rocket lighter so that maybe we would be able to bring, maybe a little bit more food, anything like that. Really big difference. So space is always looking for lightweight technology.
Okay, so we will be continuing to advance the research with lightweight materials. We are basically using carbon fibers, fiberglass, ceramic materials so that you can also enter back. So this is what we will ensure with our sophisticated materials. So who else is there? Then we got Eric from Ghana. Wonderful. So we are on the African continent. Which space vehicle do you think will be ready first to fly to Mars? Is a question from Yannick. Do you want to answer that?
Sure. So currently right now, I mean, talking about NASA specifically, they have already built the SLS Space Launch System. And so that their first rocket of that has actually been fully built, and they'll probably start doing testings and launches by the end of this year. So that'll be really exciting to see. Obviously, SpaceX has their Starship that they're really excited about. Obviously, that one's not fully built yet, but SpaceX definitely does have high hopes. So there are a lot of people talking about going to Mars, a lot of different ideas of going to Mars. So it's definitely just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah, not really sure which one's going to make it there first, but as long as someone's going to Mars, will be good.
Absolutely. That's the right attitude. I really admire your attitude, your open attitude on this one. Okay, so there's a follow-up question from Yannick. Let me have a look at that. Would you rather fly direct Earth to Mars or make a stop on the moon? And I would then ask you, if you would make a stop on the moon, I mean, distance-wise, it's not far, right, compared to Mars?
Yeah, so basically, to get to the moon, like when we were going to the moon, it took between like 3 to 4 days. Not a long trip at all. And obviously, Mars is closer to 6 months of a journey. Honestly, I guess
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. Quite a long journey. But yeah, I mean, I guess I would definitely prefer just to go ahead, get it over with, just fly directly to Mars. I definitely think the ideas, though, of like going back to the moon first before we go to Mars are, I think that they both have benefits of them, whether you stop on the moon or just go straight to Mars. I think kind of the biggest thing about stopping on the moon is that the most dangerous part of a space mission is during launch and landing. You know, we have the most changes happening. When you go to the moon, you're going to increase another landing and another launch, which I definitely think is just kind of adding a few more dangers. Of course, it would be helpful to stop there, just kind of break it up. But definitely, I think possibly just going to Mars may just be better off. But yeah, it's definitely exciting that we're planning on going back to the moon first, just to kind of test out the spacecraft and then eventually sending people to Mars. So I definitely think they all have benefits.
So then Olcay is from Turkey. I hope the best, you and your team. How long will continue the flight to Mars? So she said 6 months, and let's spend some time on this one. So I understand from your TEDx talks, it takes you 6 months to go there. By the way, Alyssa, in 10 years, 12 years time, I have a request from you. If technology is so far advanced, can I have you on a second follow-up LinkedIn Live?
Yeah, from Mars.
From Mars, or on the journey. Maybe you are bored at some time, you know, then we can have a chat with our community and answer all these questions. So you will travel about 6 months to Mars. That will be in what year roughly?
So right now the plans are to head to Mars by the early 2030s. Obviously, all of those are just kind of rough years. That's kind of the estimated goal that can be pushed back or pulled forward. But kind of the plan for the mission is that it would take around 6 months to get from Earth to Mars. The astronauts are going to have to live on Mars for around a year, maybe a little more, and then around 6 to 9 months to come back. The reason why it's all just kind of like 6 to 9 months or a year to or a little more is just because it really just depends on the rotation of the planets during that year. So basically, when the Earth and Mars are orbiting around the sun, they don't orbit in perfect circles. They orbit in little oval shapes that are called ellipticals, meaning that sometimes Mars is really close to us and sometimes Mars is really far from us. So definitely when we launch to Mars, we're going to launch when Mars is at that close point. We'll get to Mars, a little while later. But then while we're on Mars, we're going to have to wait for Mars to kind of realign, come back to that point to where it's close. So that's kind of why it takes a good while on the mission. However, for future missions to Mars, probably not the first few, but for future missions to Mars, we do already know that we have the technology, we have the capabilities of using plasma engines to actually reduce that 6 months to 6 weeks. So there is the capability of making it.
You're kidding. From 6 months to 6 weeks is my first time I hear that.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Obviously, the first missions probably won't be able to use that newer technology, but hopefully kind of once we start getting used to going to Mars a little bit more, we'll eventually be able to implement that.
So let's ask our community, anyone who is viewing right now, what do you think about reducing the travel time to Mars from 6 months to 6 weeks? What options would that open up for humankind, for traveling into space? That is fantastic. Okay, let's go back to the questions then. The 9 months, the oval circle, I want to come back just shortly. You are always looking to reduce the travel time, of course, not only because of the human body, let's say, and the strain on the travel, but also because of the fuel. What fuel is used in this mission?
So I mean, off the top of my head, I can't necessarily think of like all the specific names of the fuels, but kind of so the benefit about like traveling to space, the majority of the fuel used is going to be used during takeoff. So once you're actually in space, since there's no friction, there's nothing fighting against you in space, you're in a vacuum, pretty much like if you push this direction, you're going to go that way forever. Okay. You're not going to stop. And so you basically just have one little spurt of fuel, one little thrust, and then you're going. And there's nothing that's going to stop you. So you don't have to continuously add fuel all the time. So you're really not using that much fuel while you're in space. Really, the only amounts of fuel that you're using is just like little spurts here and there just to kind of realign, readjust, make sure you're staying on track. So really, once we're in space, there's not that much fuel that we use. The majority of it is really just to fight Earth's gravity and get off the planet.
So it's like an autopilot and just making sure that you are heading the right direction, like in the plane, plane. So who else is there? Let me check. There are so many comments here. I really thank you so much, our audience, that you are so busy here right now and giving us so much comments. You have a lot of support, Alyssa, I have to say. So Daniel, I think you are you may know Daniel. He's he's in one of he invited you to one of his campaigns the other day. Maybe Daniel, you can write down what campaign it is.
Possibly.
I forgot it, but please write it down. Then Ludwig Reinhardt, again, very engaged, he says, very good. Christine says, a really interesting interview. Then Mikey says, Alyssa, I'd be curious to learn the following about your plan to go to Mars. It's a great mission for a human being, yet aren't you afraid of what could happen in between? Like if you break a leg or fall in love and don't want to leave. Okay. You want to?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I can answer that. Yeah, totally. I mean, life happens. It's just kind of something to keep in mind. Obviously, especially with your interest in being an astronaut, the cool thing about wanting to be an astronaut is that you always have a backup plan. To apply as an astronaut, you already have to have a successful career. So you definitely, if you're not selected as an astronaut, you totally can just go back to your everyday career. Really, for me, I just want to contribute to the space industry in any way that I can. You know, if something were to happen, like I break my leg and then all of a sudden I'm not able to go to space, then I would do all that I can from Earth to kind of help support the people who are selected for the mission. But I mean, really, even if nothing at all happens, there's still always a chance that I'm not selected. So I definitely think that, you know, just building yourself up to be in the best position possible. But also you just have to realize that a lot of that is out of your control. You know, you just have to put in all the effort that you can to put yourself in the best position. And if it happens, it happens. And then if not, I will continue to support the space industry here from Earth as well, doing astrobiology.
I'm a wise man, I would say. And if there's love in between, if it's true love, he will wait for you 2 years until you come back. That's as easy as I would say it.
Yeah.
Arno from Switzerland. Arno has brought up someone from Switzerland, an astronaut. So, Alyssa, we will do a debriefing with him on our talk today. So I will invite him also. Arno, be prepared. Yeah, I will have him on a live soon also, because I'm getting very excited about this space technology. Andrea says hello from Mars. He's already there waiting for you. Yeah, exactly. Some interview, thumbs up, and all the best for your mission, Alyssa. So you see a lot of what can you recommend to young people who are interested in this profession? What programs, books, or videos? Thanks and best regards from Daniel.
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely say for anyone interested in the space industry, definitely the first step is really just figuring out what you want to do. So within the space industry, there are so many different roles. Of course, you have your engineers, your scientists, astronauts, but there's so much more beyond that. You know, there's people that prepare the food for the astronauts. You know, let's say an astronaut says he wants a taco. Someone has to sit there and figure out how they're going to package that taco and how they're going to send that to space. There's a lot of people who study the psychology, you know, food fatigue. The astronauts can't eat the same thing every single day. So someone actually studies what they eat and how that affects how well they're working, you know. So psychology is a huge factor. People who design spacesuits, the rocket engineers, engine testers, there's so many different ways you can get involved in the space industry. So really the first step is just figuring out what you want to do and, you know, how do you want to contribute to the space industry? What are you interested in? That's really the first step. And it's really cool to kind of look at all the different jobs within space, because there are a lot of really interesting non-traditional jobs that you really wouldn't think of that really are available within the space industry. But kind of beyond that, it's really just kind of working towards that dream. You know, let's say you're more interested in designing spacesuits, you kind of start focusing on that and maybe look up different kinds of spacesuits, the history of spacesuits, you know, what the different components are, how you can do that. So for example, like for me personally, I was always interested in possibly being some sort of mission specialist, some sort of research scientist. So I knew I wanted to do something within science, not necessarily like a pilot professionally. So yeah, so I've definitely just kind of focused on that and kind of continued on becoming some sort of scientist. And that's kind of how I ended up studying astrobiology right now. But yeah, it's just working your hardest towards whatever career you're focused on.
You're really exciting. You got really passion for what you are talking right now. I would ask if anyone from NASA, any officer listening right now, I would be happy once Alyssa has taken off to come to, what is it, Kennedy Space Center?
Yeah, I mean,
Most
yeah.
probably, yeah. And do a LinkedIn Live with Alyssa. That would be my dream for my life. So Christian Hüttich is asking, do you study the land cover of Mars already to prepare for landing? Where is the best location?
Yeah, there's so a direct spot hasn't been chosen yet. There's been several different ideas. Most likely we'll land somewhere where we know there's a good bit of water, just because water is kind of one of the most exciting things about Mars. So we'll probably land an area that like a rover has already explored to where that we know that there's a good chunk of water, possibly the equator as well, that has steam, which is also pretty interesting. And so there's definitely different areas that are interesting. Another thing about kind of like the land of Mars is there's a lot of people doing research to see if it's better to stick our habitat under the surface of Mars. So kind of there's like lava tubes or little like areas under the surface of Mars that's possible that we could stick our habitat there. So the benefits of that would be more protection from radiation levels, any sort of debris that would happen on the surface. So there's also a lot of research going into the land in that way to see, you know, is that possible? Is that our safest way, and different things like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of research happening right now in terms of the land on Mars, and all the new rovers going to Mars. They're always finding more information.
Great. So then we got Thomas. He says the duration has been just answered. Thanks, Thomas, for joining our live today. Then Lily says 6 months journey is pretty long. What do you plan to do during this time? Is there a special program to go through? First of all, we will have a LinkedIn Live with Alyssa. The others, what would you say?
Yeah, so definitely, obviously, 6 months sounds really long, and you would probably think, you know, we would just be bored the whole time, but definitely, so kind of once we kind of get past the moon, that's still uncharted territory. It's still area of space that we've never been to before, never explored before. So there's still going to be a lot of research, you know, testing different levels of radiation. You know, are the radiation levels higher over there? You know, photography will also be probably really huge of what we do. So there's still going to be research and like experiments and science to do on the way there, plus any preparations we would have to do before actually getting to Mars. So any preparations we may need in terms of landing on Mars. You know, we've also bounced around the idea of growing our own food. It's possible that we'll focus a lot on just like growing and getting that prepared for once we get to Mars. So there's a lot of different ideas of what we would do. We wouldn't just be kicked back. Sadly, astronauts never quite get quite that much free time. So.
Yeah, so you will be busy all the time. We don't need to worry about that. Daniel says it's mission discovery where you are involved. Okay. Then Yannick says, I made the calculation. If you are able to reduce the travel from 6 months to 6 weeks, I would be able to cycle from Munich to Zurich in 20 minutes versus 10 hours. So he says, first of all, he needs to train more for 2030. So jokes by side, what is the speed, the regular speed that you are targeting right now? So once you are pushed out.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like the speed for like the actual mission to Mars, I don't think I know the numbers exactly, but to kind of like give you an idea, and of course, I'm gonna say in miles per hour, so apologies, I can't think in kilometers at the moment. But so
That's
typically,
okay.
typically, like the International Space Station right now is traveling 17,500 miles per hour. So it is relatively fast speed, but that's just going around the Earth. So we'd probably go a little bit faster than that for like going to Mars and stuff. But, you know, you made a really amazing point about kind of taking the technologies that we develop for the space industry and then kind of remarketing it to a way to benefit Earth. You know, it's totally possible that, let's say, these plasma engines can be maybe made on kind of like a smaller scale to be able to fit into airplanes or to be able to fit in different areas that could make airplanes faster and possibly better for the environment. You know, because they wouldn't be burning fuel and, you know, different ideas like that. You know, there's definitely a lot of connections between what we figure out in space and how they can help Earth. So.
Okay, prior to this show, Alyssa, I got also some questions from my community that cannot attend today to this live show. They will certainly watch it on the replay. But Ute is asking me, and there's no particular order with these questions, okay? Just allow me to ask the questions as they stand here on my script. So her question is, she would be interested to know whether you have already thought about the time after your mission.
Yeah, so I mean, after the mission to Mars, I would retire as an astronaut. I wouldn't go to space again just because the mission to Mars, as we've discussed, is pretty lengthy. So that's just kind of a lot of time of space travel on my body. And so I'd probably not go to space anymore. I would probably just either one, kind of just continue helping out in the mission in any way possible, whether that's helping continue with some science, maybe some rocks, some soil that we brought back. And then also, I would definitely continue speaking to kids just because that's become such a large part of my life now. And it's definitely something that I've really kind of fallen in love doing. I really love just being able to teach and inspire kids to go after their wildest dreams. So it's definitely something I would continue doing after the mission as well.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we are live with Alyssa. She will be the first human being, the first woman on Mars. Please keep on continuing sending your questions in. We will be having 10 more minutes. And I continue with Ute's next follow-up question. This one is a bit a special question, but I will ask you anyway. She has heard or understands that aging does stop outside Earth. So will you come back as a younger person?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of more of like a sci-fi idea. We've kind of seen movies like Interstellar to where like he comes back and everyone that he's ever known is old and he's like very youthful because he hasn't aged. Definitely not something that we're going to be dealing with on a mission to Mars. Yes, technically, Mars days are different and Mars years are different than Earth days and Earth years. However, on a mission to Mars, so a Mars day is just 24 hours and 30 minutes. So you really only get like an extra 30 minutes every day. And so it's really not that big of a difference to where, everyone we would know would be gone and we would be youthful, anything like that. It's really not going to make a big difference. So when we come back, everything's still going to be perfectly normal. So there's nothing to worry about with that.
No, we don't worry about that. That's really nice. Thanks for answering this, Alyssa. You're really patient with our questions today. Silke has a personal question to you. What would Alyssa leave behind or back her?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like the hardest part for astronauts is leaving like their friends and family and things like that. Here on Earth, definitely also I would definitely miss just kind of like the nature feel of Earth, just grass and trees and fresh air, because Mars is kind of lacking in those. But it would be really exciting because we are able to bring like a few things with us like on the mission. So to bring a few photos, I would definitely bring like my Right Stuff award that I won the first time I went to space camp, and then maybe like a soccer ball or something like fun. Just bring those to Mars and maybe like just have fun, maybe leave those on Mars, just because that would be pretty cool to have.
And I heard that you will bring on board probably a football, a deflated one.
Yeah. So we would probably have to bring it deflated. We'd probably just like pump it up with some air once we get there. But I mean, they played golf on the moon, so why not play football on Mars? It's
wonderful idea. Wonderful idea. Do you have any expectations or hopes from Mars? I mean, outside now your research. Obviously, we know that you got a research target and objectives and aims, but you personally?
I definitely think just the exciting thing for me is really just going to be being able to kind of be in the element and explore and do all the science that we're going to be able to do. There's just kind of a lot of possibilities with Mars. And really the point of the first missions to Mars is that, we've talked about colonizing Mars. We've talked about terraforming Mars. We've thrown a whole lot of big ideas out there in terms of Mars. And so those first missions are really going to be, how realistic is this? How long is this going to take? Is this something that we really want to do? Is it possible to do? So definitely that's what those first missions are going to do. So definitely just excited to be able to being able to learn so much about science, but also being able to be in that environment while we're learning it.
Great. So we have also some children interested, of course, in your mission, Alyssa. And Maria's son, I don't know how old he is, but he is wondering how close could a rocket possibly come to the sun before it starts melting. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, the sun is really hot. Yeah, so the sun is really hot, so it is pretty difficult to get close to the sun. We have actually sent, not like a rocket ship, like with people or anything like that, but we have sent a few like satellites and probes to the sun to be able to research. We study sunspots and solar flares and radiation. We do a lot of study with the sun. So we have sent some stuff to the sun actually, and it has done, its research. Obviously, those get relatively close. They don't get super close. Of course, we have somewhat of a limit. But, we kind of say, we get relatively close. We have those technologies to be able to protect those scientific equipment, but we're not planning on sending people that way anytime soon. It's a little too toasty for them.
Too toasty, yes. So Yannick is asking, how long do you plan to stay on Mars? I mean, we have covered that. It's about a year or a little longer. What would you actually do on Mars? Suppose a lot of experiments, actually what you're saying, yeah, terraforming and seeing whether it makes sense to make more missions. So we've covered that, Yannick, already. Then service calculation does from Thomas, service calculation 70,000 miles per hour, 20,358 kilometers per hour, pretty fast. I would say, so with that speed, you are circumventing the globe in about 2 hours.
Yeah. So typically the speed of the International Space Station, to give you an idea, kind of like weighs 17,500, around that. The International Space Station goes around the entire globe every 90 minutes. So about an hour and a half. Every hour and a half, it circles the globe. So yeah, going pretty fast.
It's pretty fast. Okay, so I will close now these questions that came from the engagement. Thank you so much. The last one I want to touch base with you, is basically your 3 learnings. And I find them so inspiring. Anyone who has not yet watched Alyssa's great TEDx talk in Klagenfurt, Austria, I highly recommend it. The last one, we will show it within a minute before we close this session. So you said during your journey, you found first put in the hard work. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I definitely think in terms of putting in the hard work, it's just once you kind of come up with an idea of what you want to do, you definitely have to start doing a lot of research into it. Is this really what you want to do? What would it take to actually fulfill that role? And then, what kind of opportunities do you have around you? A whole lot of research, looking in your local area for museums, libraries, any small stuff like that to really have a better idea of what you can actually go after. So that's what I mean by putting in the hard work, being willing to do that research, looking out for different opportunities for yourself.
Okay. The second one is sacrifice.
Yeah, so sacrifice was definitely talking about, definitely for me growing up, I've definitely was involved in a whole lot of stuff, but also, space was a big part of that. And so it's definitely always knowing like when to balance kind of fun and work. And that kind of applies to anyone all the time, whether it's like an event that you have to miss out on, maybe, you can't make it to this family event because you have a huge work deadline or things like that. It's all in terms of sacrifice. It's all about really kind of picking and choosing what moments mean the most to you at that moment. Should you be going after your dreams? Should you be doing something towards work, or should you be, going to that fun event that probably would be more fun to go to? But what is more important and what is more necessary at that moment? So it's all about just kind of creating that balance in your life, and kind of figuring out, when you should put in the work and when you should, just have a fun time.
Great. So the last one, moment, I lost you. Now you're here. Okay. So the last one is, I will now run the TEDx talk for the last point, never give up, because you are bringing up the last sentence, we are the Mars generation. So this is really, I'm turning now to the younger generation, which is Generation Z and lower, which is, I think, now called Generation Alpha, yeah, because it starts from the beginning right now. Alyssa, I thank you really so much for being my live guest today. It was really an honor for me. I wish you all the best in the preparation to your Mars mission. Everything will be good. I'm totally positive on this one. You have great technology available. There's a little more time, so you can train a little more. Thank you for all our followers that have been attending and really asking these many questions and really sensible questions. I mean, I really enjoyed this show. Alyssa, I will start this now, and yeah, let's say goodbye to our followers.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for all your amazing questions, and thank you for having me. 3 is never give up. I wonder sometimes what was going through my little brain when I was 3, when I was thinking that becoming an astronaut was exactly what I was going to do. Choosing the career option of becoming an astronaut and the goal of going to Mars was the absolute craziest career option I could have ever picked. However, I was not knocked down by this. I was not discouraged because of the hard work I put in, the support from family and everyone around me, and never giving up. I am where I am today. So it is important because now the mission to Mars is becoming more and more of a reality. So with your dream, no matter how crazy it might sound in the moment or how far-fetched it might be, if you continue and never give up on it, it's possible that it could become a reality. And this idea of changing the paradigm is to make jobs that appear impossible within our reach if we want them bad enough. Bala Ambadi is an American ophthalmologist, educator, and researcher. He was claimed as the youngest doctor when he was only 17 years old. Katrina Mumma is claimed as the youngest person to pilot a Russian MiG-29 fighter jet when she was 11 years old. Yeah, pretty intense. She was also the youngest to break the sound barrier. Finally, Jamie Edwards, at 13, became the youngest fusioneer, meaning he built an entire nuclear fusion reactor from scratch. This generation is definitely changing the world, and this generation is breaking out of that paradigm that we find all of ourselves following. As we encourage our kids to continue breaking these paradigms, these norms that we have, that is how we can make a difference in the world. Never stop giving. Never give up on your dreams, and never let anyone take your dreams away from you. Because this is a time of change, a time to explore, a time to evolve. Change the paradigm, change the future for the next generations. I am Alyssa Carson, call sign Blueberry, and we are the Mars generation. Thank you.